Manx Radio's Update with Beth Espy.
Well, Fastamai, good evening. It's Thursday. This is your news roundup. Everything you need to know in under 30 minutes. And naturally tonight we're going to be focusing on Storm Éowyn due to hit the Isle of Man overnight. We'll find out what preparations have been put in place so far. We know schools will be shut. What else is going to be closed? And where can you go if you need sandbags? We'll also keep an eye on the current road situation as well. There is an emergency closure on the Peel to Douglas Main Road. That's for the emergency felling of a tree. And if there's anything else that you spot when you're out and about and you can let us know, that would be great. 166 177 or studio@manxradio.com. Also in the programme, we'll hear what happened at several schools around the island first thing this morning. We'll start with a roundup of the main news with Lewis Fastamai.
Fastamai, government is advising people stay home unless absolutely necessary tomorrow as a red weather warning is issued for violent storm force winds. Storm Éowyn will arrive overnight, schools are staying closed tomorrow and bus services will be suspended. Ronaldsway Airport has confirmed its runway and terminal will be closed tomorrow until at least 4 o'clock. All steam packet sailings for Friday have been cancelled. Meanwhile, the mountain road will be closed from 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, but police say they will monitor the route tonight and close it earlier if needs be. In other news today, Ballacameen High School says the safety and well-being of children at the school is its utmost priority. It comes after a former teacher admitted making and possessing indecent pseudo-images of children. Police say 26-year-old Liam Taylor abused his position of trust to obtain non-indecent photos, which he then adapted using artificial intelligence. Almost 2/3 of all the pitches at the grandstand for this year's TT have been awarded to local traders. The Department for Enterprise has revealed the statistics after criticism online that government had priced Manx businesses out of the market. And police are investigating the origin of a bomb threat which was sent to several island schools via email this morning. Officers were in attendance immediately after it was sent at around 7:30, resulting in significant disruption and concern for students, parents and staff. The schools were reopened shortly after, once it was perceived there was no risk to the public or pupils. In the latest international news now, the teenager who murdered 3 children at a dance class in Southport last summer has been jailed for a minimum of 52 years. Judge Mr. Justice Goose told the court it's likely Axel Ruda-Cabana will never be released from prison. The 18-year-old wasn't in court to hear the sentence, having twice been removed from the dock after complaining he was unwell. Ireland's new Prime Minister says he's thankful and honoured to become the country's new leader. He was voted in by Parliament a day after a row disrupted the process. And clubs in the top 2 divisions of Norwegian football have voted in favour of scrapping VAR. Protests have taken place at matches with fans throwing tennis balls, smoke bombs and even fish cakes onto the pitch. Those are the headlines. I'll be back with the news at 6 o'clock.
Thank you very much indeed, Lewis. Fish cakes. You're listening to Update here on Manx Radio. Now the weather brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. I think we need to hear it from the horse's mouth this evening. Let's head down to Ronaldsway Met Office and Kirsty Pendlebury is there. Kirsty, we're obviously preparing ourselves for this storm arriving. What can you tell us about the general situation first of all?
Fastamai, Beth. To be honest, I have to say that over the last sort of 12 to 24 hours, the computer model data that we've been receiving in has been quite consistent between different computer models from different Met services around the world, and that has helped us to firm up in the confidence, and obviously that's what's allowed us to then escalate that amber warning we originally had out for this Storm Éowyn up to that red category, which is really significant for the island, and generally speaking now that weather system has now started to develop. It's only started to develop during today really, but we're really starting to see that deepen now off to the southwest of the British Isles.
Now, it's not very often that we see a red warning. When was the last one?
So the last red warning that we issued from Ronaldsway Met Office was on the 2nd of January in 2018, and that was in association with a storm that was named as Storm Eleanor. A bit easier to say. Maybe it's something about ease. But they did have 85 mile an hour gusts, so we're forecasting that time as well. So very similar to what we're forecasting for today.
And this is the first named storm of 2025. What can we expect over here then from what you're seeing on these models?
So at the moment, the winds are going to pick up as we go overnight tonight, and with that we see a spell of rain coming through as well. The rain probably not one of the most significant things, but certainly seeing a heavy spell of rain probably from about 1 o'clock till 4 or 5 in the morning. That's out of the way just as the winds are picking up to become gale force from the southeast, and then quite quickly from around about 5 or 6 in the morning those winds turn to the south or southwest and increase further, and we're going to see sort of from then onwards with that sort of warning for red wind strengths coming in at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Average wind speeds through the morning itself around about 45 to 55 miles an hour. Gusts likely to be between 70 to 80 miles an hour quite widely across the island, with the risk really of up to 85 miles an hour, perhaps in more sort of exposed coastal areas and over higher ground as well. But obviously as well we have got some coastal issues too. Those strong winds do bring with it some very large waves as well, so really do take care around the coast. I know it looks nice to go and see, but those waves are going to be really big, and obviously with those winds around as well, they are going to blow on shore a lot of sea water too.
And in terms of how the Met Office is fundamental in advising emergency services and government, we talked a little bit with Stuart yesterday just about how busy it is on a particular weatherfront time like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously we've been really busy today. We came in first thing this morning, and this is why we sort of have to wait until today before we could escalate anything. Actually, ironically, some of the computer models had slightly lighter winds today. Say lighter, less windy perhaps, than what we were looking at when we went home yesterday evening. So it was trying to gauge, is it likely to still fall into a red category? Does it fall into the high end of an amber category? But, then as the day's gone on, we have had a couple more model runs come in that have had ever so slightly stronger winds again, so certainly in line for a red. And I think really for us as well, one of the main factors was that it is during a morning commute time tomorrow on a school and work day as well, whereas before when we had Storm Dara last month, that occurred on a weekend, and so perhaps not as many people moving around the island. But as you were saying, red warnings are pretty rare, so we do ask everyone to sort of take a little bit of a moment, go in and have a look and check you've got things sort of tied down around the house and things like that, and just be prepared really.
And do you have much contact with other Met offices around the UK or Northern Ireland or wherever?
Yeah, of course. Obviously today the Met Éowyn and the UK Met Office as well have both escalated their warnings to red, and with the UK Met Office reaching theirs over to Northern Ireland as now a red, as well as South West and Central Scotland as well. But we do receive a lot of guidance from the UK Met Office, and one of the forecasters has reached out today and checked if we need any further help and support as well, because they're obviously quite aware that the Isle of Man is going to be seeing some pretty rough conditions over the next 24 hours. And a lot of people always ask why, when you look on the UK Met Office app or warnings map, do they not have the Isle of Man on it? It's because of us. It's because you've got your own Met service. So do keep checking on our webpage for updates as we go through the rest of tonight and tomorrow. If there are any significant changes, we will update those forecasts and warnings and get them out to you.
Kirsty, we really appreciate you taking the time, especially when you're so busy, and no doubt we'll speak to the Met Office over the next 24 hours or so.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
TE Carbon provide new memorial stones, grave renovations, new inscriptions and fire hearths. Visit us at Hope Street, Castletown, or at Broadway, Douglas, or call 844 440. TE Carbon, here when you need us.
Most builders start with a hammer and saw. Manx Construction start with ideas and imagination. For new build, extension or home office, Manx Construction offer full service from planning to completion. Call Tony on 452 688.
We all need peace of mind. That's where Peace of Mind Manx Will Writing Services can help you. From just £149 plus VAT. Call 671 001 or go to peaceofmind.co.im.
At Bond Bond Fabrics, we're not just a fabric shop. As well as curtains and upholstery and dress and costume fabrics, we've knitting and crocheting wools, made-to-measure curtain and blind service, plus poles and tracks. Visit Strand Street Douglas, call 611856 or see bondfabrics.im.
You're listening to Update here on Manx Radio. It's just coming up to 5:10. So we know that rare red weather warning has now been issued for violent storm force winds between 7 in the morning and 2 tomorrow afternoon. Just hearing more about that from Kirsty down at the Met Office. Christian is with me now, and Christian, already we've had a host of information about things that aren't going to be running tomorrow. Would you be able to just run through the main things for us?
Yeah, exactly. So like Ronaldsway Met Office says, there will be widespread disruption. So bus services are going to be suspended during those hours, 7 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. Schools are also closed tomorrow. So if you've got kids, they won't be going into school. The Isle of Man Post Office is suspending all of tomorrow's collections and deliveries. That includes customer counters at the postal headquarters, Northern Delivery Office, and the vehicle licensing will be closed too. People are being urged to check with sub-post offices before visiting to confirm if they're open. Lloyds and Isle of Man Bank branches are also being closed. And to explain what the authorities are doing, I did have a sit-down chat with Dan Davis, the Chief Officer of the Department of Home Affairs. He told me red warnings are unprecedented.
It means there is a risk to life. It means there's going to be lots of disruption. So we have been looking at this probably since Tuesday, when the first yellow warning came out, which quite quickly moved to amber. We have had a number of tactical groups from right across the public service, representatives from the Department of Infrastructure, for example. We've had the Manx Utilities here, Manx Care, DEFA, Emergency Joint Control Room, alongside all the emergency services, fire, police and ambulance. And what we aim to do is to ensure that public service personnel are kept safe out during disruption, but also our primary concern is to keep the public safe. So we're looking at plans, for example, in terms of having lots of people ready from Department of Infrastructure and Manx Utilities to respond to things like trees blocking highway, to power outages. And the teams are pretty well rehearsed in this. So they have extra people ready on standby. They have contractors ready on standby to bring extra capacity in. And we're quite used to dealing with bad weather as an island. You know, we're quite resilient as an island, as a community. And so the plans are quite well advanced, and we just need to make sure that we're well coordinated.
And does the fact that it's a red warning change any of the preparations that are happening?
Yeah, I think it does. So, for example, when considering the advice to stay home and only travel when absolutely necessary, that's reflected by the risk posed to the public from travelling during a red weather warning. So during an amber weather warning, what we'd normally say is drive to the conditions. But seeing a red warning, you know, the Met Office really only issue these when they think there's going to be extreme weather with a chance of risk to life from structural damage, from debris, and from falling trees, for example. So we do take it very, very seriously with the red warning. Lots of different parts of the public service have worked to free up capacity as part of the planning process. So, for example, the Isle of Man ambulance service won't be doing any non-urgent or routine journeys. They've been cancelled. Manx Care, I know, have cancelled a number of clinics. The DOI have suspended day-to-day duties so that they've got maximum numbers of people available. So right across the public service, people have been focusing on being ready to address the issues that are likely to happen, particularly during that early period where the red weather warning's enforced.
And just lastly, like you said, the message is to stay at home wherever possible. If people do have to go out and they see something that they feel the authorities need to be aware of, whether that's trees down, etc., what's the best way for them to alert officers?
I think that's a really good point. It's really important to call the right number, Christian. Please only call 999 if it's a genuine emergency. Otherwise, for things like trees down, please call Ellerslie Control Room. The number's on the website. If there is an issue with your power, then call the Manx Utilities 24-hour power line. Again, the number's online. We'll be putting out lots of communication about the right number to call, but please only call 999 if it's a genuine emergency, as the control room rapidly becomes very, very busy, and we need to make sure that the people who really need to get through to the emergency services can get through.
That's Chief Officer of the Department of Home Affairs, Dan Davis, talking about the preparations ahead of tomorrow. He mentioned Ellerslie, the number there, 850000. The teams there are brilliant in these sort of situations. They'll be out and about all over the place. But as he said, do make sure that it's only 999 if it's an absolute emergency. Some other advice online for pet owners. You're being asked to keep your pets indoors and avoid walks if you can tomorrow. I know that's not always easy if you haven't got a garden, particularly for your dog to get out and about in, but it is the advice from the Manx SPCA as the storm head towards the island. It's issued guidance online for dogs, cats, birds, small pets and also larger animals, including livestock. You can hear that full interview on manxradio.com as a newscast. Well, let's just turn our attention now to something that happened first thing this morning, and an investigation is underway after several of the island schools received bomb threats. Sian Cowper has the details for us.
Shortly after 7:30 this morning, the Emergency Services Joint Control Room was informed a number of primary and secondary schools on the island had received a bomb threat via email. It meant some pupils found they were turned away from school for a short time when they arrived this morning. In a statement, the Isle of Man Constabulary says officers immediately attended the schools affected and liaised with staff to facilitate the protocol for such threats, which they say caused significant disruption and no doubt concern for pupils, parents and staff at the affected sites. Having assessed the threat, the police were able to confirm there was no perceived risk to the public or students, and schools were able to reopen following consultation with the Department of Education, Sport and Culture. Officers have thanked everyone for their quick response to the incident and confirmed the origin of the threat is being investigated. One of the high schools affected sent a message to parents of its pupils saying it's incredibly proud of the school's community and the children's response to the unexpected start to the day.
Sian Cowper reporting on what was going on in some schools around the island this morning. I should say, if you know of anything that's not going to happen tomorrow, that's been postponed or cancelled or whatever, do get in touch with us and let us know. 166 177 is the best text number. Ben Hartley will be here from 5 in the morning with the very latest updates. So he'll be able to keep you up to date exactly with what's happening, particularly on the roads around the island if you are having to travel anywhere tomorrow. We heard about Manx Care, and they have issued an update about their plans and advising the public to consider the plans when making decisions about what's happening tomorrow. The services affected for Manx Care are as follows. Most planned appointments are going to be cancelled unless there is a clinical imperative for them to proceed. Anyone affected will be contacted to let you know that they are cancelled. If you're not contacted, your appointment will be going ahead as normal. Essential community visits, they are going to go ahead. Learning disability and older people day services, they will be suspended temporarily. The drop-in vaccination clinic for COVID and flu jabs at Morton Hall in Castletown has been postponed until the 31st of January. The final day of the Healthy Mums, Healthy Baby Week, that has been cancelled. If you've got a planned GP appointment, the practice will contact you if arrangements have changed. So if you haven't heard, again, assume that your appointment will be going ahead. Any planned dental appointments, the practice again will get in touch if they need to change it. Pharmacies, they're not scheduled to be closed, but circumstances might change depending on how things are tomorrow. So just check the pharmacy you're planning to go to before heading out there. And obviously, if you're a patient who is due to fly to the UK, we know that the airport is going to be shut until at least 4 p.m. tomorrow. There'll be much more about the Manx Care situation on our Facebook page very shortly.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Well, the main thing this evening was that closure of the Peel to Douglas Road. That was while the Department of Infrastructure deal with that tree. So that was between the Balagary Road and Glenvine as far as the roundabout at Braddon Church. It's going to be enforced until no later than 6 p.m, and that is to get rid of that large roadside tree which was reported to be in danger of falling onto the carriageway. So do take that into account when you're heading home this evening. So down at the airport at the moment, all looking okay, but we do know it will be closed until at least 4 p.m. tomorrow, and there will be further updates as the day goes on tomorrow. And the latest from the steam packet, the Manxman is due in just after 5:30, heading out again to Heysham tonight at 7:15, and it will be staying in Heysham overnight just to ride out this storm. For the very latest, as I say, go to manxradio.com.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with
It's coming up to 5:20. Ballacomene High School says the safety and well-being of children at the school is its utmost priority. Now, this comes after a former teacher admitted making and possessing prohibited and indecent pseudo-images of children. Tessa Hawley has this report.
The statement from the school comes just 2 days after its former employee, Liam Taylor, appeared at Douglas Courthouse. The 26-year-old, who now resides in the United Kingdom, pleaded guilty to 6 offences of making and possessing indecent images of children before the Deputy High Bailiff. He'll be sentenced at the Court of General Jail Delivery and will next appear there on the 31st of January. The Isle of Man Constabulary has described Taylor as abusing his position of trust in order to obtain non-indecent images of students, which he then adapted using artificial intelligence. Detective Inspector Nick Haxby from the Protecting Vulnerable People investigation team says his officers and those in the Digital Evidence Unit have worked with the Department of Education, Sport and Culture to conduct a thorough investigation. As a result of it, he says he's satisfied that no contact offences have been committed by the defendant on any of the students affected by his actions. Following Taylor's appearance, the head teacher of Ballacomene has written to parents to say whilst they can't comment on ongoing legal proceedings, there are strict safeguarding policies in place. The school says it will continue to work closely with the relevant authorities to ensure that these are upheld.
Tessa Hawley reporting. 5:21. The chair of the British Medical Association believes the appointment of a new health minister is partly why strike action has been suspended. The union recently called off industrial action shortly before it was due to begin, following an 8% pay offer from Manx Care. Now, Philip Banfield, who is visiting the island currently, says he's spoken to doctors who feel positive about this revised offer.
But it's important to remember that this is about restoring the lost value of pay across a number of years, where doctors on the island have seen pay rises that have been below inflation. So the relative value of their pay has gone down, and this is starting to restore that pay. Starting is the first point, not the end point. And I think this has shown some willingness on government to recognise the value of the skills and expertise of doctors on the island.
You're saying starting there, that's the key word there. So is it likely that in following years you'll also be pushing for quite significantly above inflation pay offers?
Well, I think you can't expect workers on the island to work in circumstances where they have below inflation pay rises. It's not worked in the past and it won't work in the future.
There is a new minister in post. Has that helped negotiations at all, or with reaching the point we're at now?
Well, I really do think that has helped. We've seen positive attitude towards the value of doctors by the health minister, Claire Christian, and I've met her previously. When she was a backbencher, when we were talking about listening to doctors' concerns on the island. So I have a very positive view of her. And the Chief Minister has also been involved in negotiations. It's important. This is a political decision as to what to fund and not fund within health and social care.
That is the BMA chair, Philip Banfield, talking to Christian. 5:23. Had a message from Jim asking if any of the funerals due to take place tomorrow at the crematorium will be called off. We'll ask that question, Jim, and hopefully bring you that information as soon as we can. Also, I just want to bring you some news that has broken this afternoon, and that is the fact that the island's largest logistics and freight forwarding business has been acquired by another Manx entity. Manx Independent Carriers has been acquired by Trade Distribution Limited, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Heron and Brearley Group. Siobhan has the details.
Founded in 1985, Manx Independent Carriers is the Isle of Man's largest logistics and freight forwarding business. It's been confirmed today it has now been acquired by Trade Distribution Limited, which is based in Cueg in Douglas. Chairman and co-founder John Quay said, "As we commence our 40th year, the time felt right to look at our next chapter. I'm incredibly proud of what we have achieved so far. When we opened our doors on the 4th of November 1985, we had a team of 3 staff and a small handful of customers. Today we have over 130 people and a delivery fleet that comprises more than 80 vehicles. Under the new ownership of TDL, I think we will go from strength to strength." TDL has confirmed that for the immediate future, it will be business as usual for Manx independent carriers.
Siobhan reporting on that news. You can find out more at manxradio.com. Coming up to 5:25, sports news now with Darren.
Good evening. More TT news again today. Yorkshire rider Joey Thompson has signed for a new team for the races this year. Thompson, who will be making his 6th appearance on the mountain course, will join Team Talk of the Town, York Suzuki by Motor Oils. The 27-year-old said, "I'm delighted to have joined Team York Suzuki and I'm really looking forward to riding their Suzuki GSX R1000 at this year's TT." Team owner Kev Pearson added he is delighted to have a Yorkshire rider for the Yorkshire-based team. He said, "There's never been a rider of the level required, but with Joe we now have our man. He's very accomplished, very focused, experienced and results to boot." Thompson will ride a Suzuki for the Superbike, Senior and Super Stock races and will also line up for 2 Super Sport races on his own Yamaha. In cycling, Manx riders Ben Swift and Max Walker have completed stage 3 of the Tour Down Under today. Swift again finished ahead of his local counterparts as the Ineos Grenadiers rider finished in 72nd. Walker, meanwhile, could only manage 101st as the peloton raced from Norwood to Uradla. Tomorrow morning, we'll see the riders take on stage 4 of the Glenelg to Victor Harbour. And Isle of Man Athletics are looking to raise £10,000 to send their team to the Island Games in Orkney. Team manager Petra Atchison said one of the main challenges facing any team travelling to the Games is the cost, and despite fundraising efforts, sponsorship and generous support from the government, the cost to each athlete remains very testing. The team has set up a crowdfunding page, and to find out more, visit Isle of Man Athletics on Facebook. The Games will take place between the 12th and 18th of July this year.
Thank you very much indeed, Darren. Well, that is pretty much all from Update this evening. Thank you very much indeed for your company. For the very latest on all things storm related, if you just head over to manxradio.com or our social media pages, our Facebook page, we'll have a rolling list there of exactly what is happening, looking at the roads, the airport situation, the boats, everything you need to know. And if you spot anything when you're out and about, it's great if you can let us know. 166 177 is the text number for the studio. You can also email studio@manxradio.com. And as I say, Ben will be live an hour earlier tomorrow morning just to keep you up to date with exactly what has been happening overnight and in the early hours. He will be with you live from 5. So do stay with Manx Radio this evening. Coming up next, it's an Island Life special. And this is a really interesting one, looking at the increasingly popular obsession of plunging into the big blue, often referred to as cold water therapy. But just how therapeutic is it really? Well, Christy has been talking to regular dippers, experts and members of the island's medical community to find out more about that. Then Chris Kinney will be here from 6 with Greatest Hits, a little light music with Morris Powell at 9, and Rianne will be with you from 10 with After Hours. We will see you tomorrow. Take care, whatever you're doing, and we'll speak to you soon.